Hello and welcome to Everything and Anything Burrito. I am Liz, and we have a special guest today, Mr. Robert J. Turkovic. He is a professor of History and Humanities at Broward College, Palm Beach State. He has taught at 6 colleges and universities in the state. He is an alumni of the University of Florida, Gainesville, and he has spent 24 years working in high-tech companies, including Motorola. So we have him today. We're very honored to have him today. And as well, you have your usual panelists, Ernesto Largaespada Matute, Armando Ramirez, and me, Elizabeth Andrews. So, Mr. Turkovic, we wanted to probably delve into the vice presidential election, the vice presidential debate last week. And we were just curious, did you have any thoughts on that, being a professor of, social sciences?
There's two contrasting viewpoints of looking at the world and looking at America and looking at society in general. Mm-hmm. We have Mike Pence, representative and symbolic of the ruling class of the United States for 240 years, white Anglo-Saxon men. Mm-hmm. That's who made the rules. That's who set the guidelines. That's who set everything in motion. And then we got Kamala Harris, who has a lot of different backgrounds other than her prosecutorial background in California, Attorney General, Senator from California, on the Judiciary Committee today. She has Asian heritage and she has African American heritage. So she represents a different wave, a different strain. Everything counter to whoever who set the rules for 240 years. But they didn't set the rules just for white men. They set the rules for everybody. Mm-hmm. Because in our country, for those years, most of our population wasn't represented by our Constitution or the people we elected. Mm-hmm. 51% of the population was not represented, and that being women. They were cast out. They had no rights. Mm-hmm. They weren't allowed to vote until 100 years ago in 1920.
Well, yeah, and I think now we've come to a point where minorities and women, we want our say, we want our voice, we want to be heard.
Native Americans were considered barbarians and savages. They weren't. They were supposed to be moved out, killed, put on reservations, or done with elsewhere. Immigrants were looked down upon, and needless to say, African American slaves were considered property in the 1850s until the Civil War. So this represents a clear dichotomy between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris and all the backings behind them, and that will come forth from them in this election, that this is a new change. This is even more of a profound change than in 1960 when I was handing out leaflets at bus stops for John Kennedy in New York City, okay? Because John Kennedy was still part of the white ruling class, only he was Catholic. He was young, he was good looking, he was different than everybody else.
Yes.
He was Irish, okay? So the Irish know how they were treated when they first came to this country, just like other immigrants since that time. So the bottom line is this is even more of a profound change, and it's hard for many Americans to accept that. It's hard if you're a Midwestern mother that's 55 years of age and has raised 3 children on a small farm in the middle of Kansas or Missouri, to look at the screen and see that there's a woman up there who might be black and also might have some other mixture in her, and that she's got long black hair, and that she could talk, that she's educated, that she could actually hold her own against somebody and has held elective office. This is unheard of. Why would somebody like that, who's 55 years of age, a white woman in Kansas, accept that? That's not her. She's not represented by her. But I don't want to hog the conversation. So we have plenty of other topics I'll be glad to talk about.
No. I mean, I completely hear what you're saying. And, you're basically saying that for, we'll say, rural Protestant white Americans, the social change that is happening.
White Anglo-Saxon Protestant America.
The WASPs. I wasn't going to say it, but the WASPs. The WASPy parts of the country, they are very reluctant to accept the social change. But isn't that also related to the fact that the social change relates to them being superior and having a systematic place of power, to where them not wanting equality doesn't also, it doesn't completely boil down to the shock of the social change and the cultural shock. It also boils down to, hey, I am no longer going to be number one. And that's an issue for me as a WASP.
That's true. That is very true.
Armando, Ernesto, did you have anything to say in relation to that?
I disagree. I don't believe this country is systemically racist or anything. I'm a minority. I'm a person of color. I don't blame white people for anything. I'm responsible for my own actions, okay? Everything that I've succeeded in, everything that I've done is because of my hard work. And this is coming from a minority. My parents the same way. We're all people of color. We're all people of color, and we don't play the race card. We don't say.
But can I ask you a question though?
We don't wait, hold on, let me finish. We don't blame white Anglo-Saxons for anything. And I don't want any white Anglo-Saxon to feel sorry for me. I don't victimize myself. I work hard. I make good personal choices.
Okay, can I ask you a question though? There is the concept of colorism. It exists in every country, it exists in every society. And basically it's where those who are lighter skinned, more non-African or Indian looking, have more of a superior status. No, I'm asking a genuine question. Have more of a superior status in society. So you, you are technically a white Venezuelan. Let's be fair. You are a white Spaniard. You are mostly of Spaniard blood. Or am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I'm mixed. I'm an indigenous. I'm a mestizo. I'm
Okay.
happily mestizo, and if that were the case, please explain to me then how a black person was able to become elected president, not once but twice, and win the majority vote amongst white people in both elections between Romney and McCain. Explain that to me.
I actually do have an explanation, and there is one thing. Barack Obama is half white. Now, I'm not saying that his half white status is the reason that he got elected, but what I am saying, excuse me, I'm sorry. What I am saying though, is that he's not technically a black man. And this goes back to what I have to say about colorism. Okay, I am a black woman. I am half black and half white. I am afforded a certain level of privilege in society because of the way that I look. I don't have large lips. I don't have the physical things that automatically make me black. I'm racially ambiguous. Not going to say Barack Obama is the same thing, but I am going to say that colorism exists. You lived in Venezuela. And you have to admit, in Venezuela, the lower class of people are still the darker people, the more African people, and the more elevated in society are the whites. So be fair. Even in Venezuela.
All right, let's stick to the United States, okay? I don't know much about Venezuela. I mean, those are my parents' country more than anything. But
okay.
In the United States, is it weird? Is it a shocker to see a black doctor, to see a black engineer, to see a black musician, to see a black athlete? No, that's something completely normal. I mean, this isn't something like out of the ordinary. And it's this country that allowed them to become that, to become successful. And why? It's because of their personal choices. It's because of their hard work.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. So to start off, to get into the marijuana business in this country, you need a lot of money. There is only one black entrepreneur of the marijuana industry because you need $500,000 to start off. Do you not feel that obviously that's kind of a way of locking black and brown people up because of keeping us out of the business that we've been locked up for centuries for? I mean, how can you possibly deny full-on systemic racism? But you know what though? We got to save this for another podcast.
I don't see the evidence of it. I just don't. You have plenty of successful black people in this country. And it's funny, I find it hilarious when Oprah Winfrey and LeBron James call themselves oppressed. Yeah, okay. When they're waking up every day in their mansions. Yeah, very oppressed.
I agree with you. I mean, Oprah, I think, is like the richest Black woman in America or something. I think she's like one of the richest women in America, if not the richest. Or something. No, Jeff Bezos' wife took that honor. But either way,
statistically, like speaking in a statistical point of view, I would say that Blacks right now are pretty well off. I would say so. Racism is at an all-time low. I mean, there's so many things to blame for. You have lack of a father figure in the household. You have just so many other factors that play into it.
I hear Candace Owens. I hear Candace Owens' mantra.
Yeah,
right?
of course. And look, that's a black person. I get most of my information from Black conservatives, and they would say otherwise.
You are a conservative, so
listen to. The worst Uncle Toms to listen to are Black conservatives and Republicans who know absolutely nothing about the Black race in this country or anywhere else in the world.
Oh my God, he said Uncle Tom. I'm dying. I love it. I do. I love it. It's you know, I understand where Ernesto's coming from. A lot of poor white Americans feel this way. They feel that white privilege isn't real because they feel like they came from a place of strife. They came from a place of poverty and they worked their way out of it. But what they don't realize is that we're starting from a different starting place. Yes, we've only had full civil rights since 1968. That's not long ago. And we were subject to housing discrimination and other kinds of, I don't know. But
I'm not denying the history of the United States. I'm sure it was really racist back then, of course. But we've made tremendous progress. The United States, I have to give them credit.
Well, this
the
is
United
true.
States, the U.S. isn't nowhere near the same way it was in the 1960s during Jim Crow and stuff like that. So.
But you don't feel that racial, you know what? I was going to ask you, but I feel like we've like totally ignored Armando. So Armando, Papi, what you got to say?
Well, with regards to systemic racism, my answer to that is, and this is I can only speak from my experience. I can't obviously speak for everyone else. I am a former military brat, though, so I have, moved around. I've lived in different states and all that. So my answer with regards to like the systemic racism itself, in my opinion, it depends where you're at. Mm-hmm. I think in certain areas, it's not as, I guess, blatant as it is in others.
Like where we're all from in Miami, it's not, we didn't deal with those kind of issues, but we weren't the minority either. So,
Right. I mean, but like, we talk about South Florida because like, that's kind of where we have spent like a lot of our times. But if you take a trip and spend some time like in Alabama, for example, like I have, you definitely see a different picture. You know what I mean? And I'm not like, it's not meant to throw, darts at anybody there. I'm just giving you an example because I have seen the racial profiling from police. I have seen the discrimination against people who are of color when it comes to getting a job and all that stuff, because I went through that. So from my experience, my answer to that all is it really depends where you are and where you're at.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I agree. And I actually live about 20 minutes from the Alabama state line, even though I'm in Florida. And a lot of my coworkers lived in Alabama, but worked with me at Lowe's.
Still a cracker.
What just happened?
You're still a cracker because you belong in South Florida.
No, I am not a cracker.
You just got the wrong skin color, that's all.
Okay, we're going to steer away from Alabama for a minute. And I do want to ask, there is the president, if I'm not mistaken, he got diagnosed last Wednesday, had the debate with Joe Biden on Thursday, went to the hospital on Friday, was out on Monday, and now today, was out. My timeline's totally messed up. I'm sorry. Either way, it was like less than a week that he was, it seemed like about a week from diagnosis.
He got released last Monday.
Yeah, it was last Monday.
So it's been a week. So my thing is like, okay, I don't know how COVID works, but he apparently is the most miraculous, resilient human being on the planet because he got it and shook it off like nothing, dust it off and carry on. What do we think the reasons are for that? Because I've been reading on the internet and some people say it's because he has a superior level of health care that most Americans can't receive. We're not going to Walter Reed and we're not having a team of top medical doctors and innovations.
Hold on.
I've heard of
socialized
He got diagnosed
medicine.
on the 2nd of September, Friday. He was in the debate on September 30th on a Wednesday.
Okay.
In Cleveland. That was the 2 days difference. Under debate on Wednesday with Biden, and 2 days later, he was diagnosed, and then he went to the hospital, and then he got out on Monday last. And so it's like a 10-day recovery cycle, which was maybe possible. He's also been instilled with a lot of different drugs that other people wouldn't take and haven't been proven and haven't been verifiable. And the doctors say that it works. So he's now spreading his venom over there in Santa Florida, up near Orlando, with a rally in a hangar or somewhere near the airport. Then he's going to Pennsylvania this week, and he's going to Iowa and maybe one other place. So.
Well, I mean, is it not kind of Darwinism if they want to go to his rallies? There's Grim Reaper over your shoulder. But okay, so but basically what I've read online is there's like a few factions of people. Some people think it was totally fake. Some people think it's because he got superior health care. What are our reasons? What do we think about what happened with the president? I mean, fully and completely now that he is out. And today he claims that, I don't know if he claims, but I'll let Armando take over. What happened today with his being declared negative?
Yeah, literally, when I had sent the message, it was like literally 5 minutes that it had come out, breaking news. According to the White House physician, President Trump is negative, which it's so, again, like I said last time, I have mixed feelings on it because it's kind of like you don't really know who to trust. And I mean, again, I can speak from having, dealt with this firsthand, being on the front line and all that. Like even people who have recovered, like I've never seen like that short of a miraculous comeback. Like nothing happened.
Okay, you treated COVID patients for several months from the outbreak pretty much to last month. And you're saying of all the patients you've seen, young, old, fat, skinny, smokers, non-smokers, you have never seen anyone have the type of recovery that President Trump has had.
Not if they went to the hospital with the symptoms they said he was having. They had said that he was having problems breathing, that he had to get a transfusion of plasma, that he had to get steroids to, once again, aid with breathing. I've seen situations where people tested positive, but were not symptomatic, or they maybe lost smell or taste, but for a bit, but that was it. But I've never heard of an older person or even a middle-aged person that they just came in, had it, the symptoms were bad, and then they were just out. Like nothing happened. I've never seen that before.
And does anyone that's what I wanted to know, because I mean, I hear about it on the news, but I don't deal with these people face to face, and you've dealt with probably hundreds of COVID patients and you've never seen anything like this. So this makes him a medical anomaly or a miracle. Am I to understand that right? Pretty much.
So do we not think it was a hoax then? Do we not think it was a hoax?
Yeah,
You mean a publicity stunt? You
Exactly.
mean? Yeah.
Exactly.
Or he probably did it to avoid the debates, the future debates.
Like what Ernesto just said there was, being honest with all of you, that was my first thought. Without even reading much into it. I had heard that he had it, and I was like, no. He's plotting to get out of the debates or something like that. That was my first thought. But then, you started hearing some things, and then I was like, oh, well, maybe he does have it. Again, it's hard. You just don't know what's being in elections. We're in election season. you don't know who to trust sometimes, because one side's going to say one thing, and the other side's going to say the other. And the public is just kind of sort of going to believe what they want to believe. So on one hand, I've kind of been on that pendulum where I believed one thing and then I was believing something. Then I went back to maybe believing, what if he didn't have it?
Well, okay, so here's the thing that I question about it being a hoax. I do know that the medical professionals who treated him were forced to sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, that they would not speak, I guess, of anything that they came into knowing about Trump. But in order for
just to add one thing, also with regards to that, that's his personal right. Everybody has a right to obviously have their privacy with regards to their medical records. It's called the HIPAA law. Right, exactly. So he's not necessarily obligated to tell us if he's really negative or positive. Now, on the other hand, if you are talking about wanting to go to a debate, then I believe under those set of circumstances, yes, you are obligated. You should be obligated to test because you're going to be in proximity with other people then. And if, that right there is kind of where it kind of ends there, like the that part of the privacy. But if he's not to engage in any of that stuff, then it's well within his right to keep his diagnosis to himself, as long as he's not in a situation where he's endangering anybody.
But aren't those things like public records, kind of like the tax returns, how it's tradition to like release those to the public? Shouldn't people know, shouldn't voters have an idea of who they're voting for as far as their health?
Well, you see it,
especially Trump's age, or Joe Biden's age too. He's pretty old, so I feel like voters should definitely know, have an idea about their health status.
Well, these people are public figures, right? So obviously, when it comes to something like that, obviously the public is going to feel like we have a right to know, right? Remember when Bernie Sanders a few months ago had his,
say that? Yes.
He had his heart attack and all that. Obviously, when you're talking about a heart attack, something like that is just going to come out because that's pretty big. Yeah. But with regards to the actual details of how bad it may have been or how light it may have been or whatever, that right there is within his personal right to keep. Okay. But then again, there's that blur though, where okay, you're a public figure, you're running for public office, you're asking us to vote for you and all that. You want us to trust you, so you got to really tell us how you're doing. Yeah, you're right. It does kind of blur the lines there. It's confusing. So I do
want to ask one question, and then I'm going to take off from the COVID subject. But I do want to know. So you're saying that based on HIPAA laws, he has the right, as does any American, to keep his health history private. Then
absolutely.
As a medical professional, let me ask you, what do you believe were the motives behind him having them sign NDAs? If just from your speculation, I realize you're not Merlin the Magnificent, you don't have a crystal ball, but I'm just saying, being in the medical profession, for what reason do you think that he would feel the need to take that step?
Oh man, we're definitely taking
Am I going too deep? I'm sorry. Am I going too deep into speculation? I apologize.
No, that's not at all. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's really hard to really answer because if are we asking if he faked it, or are we asking what would be the motive if he did?
What I'm asking is, you had said that it is his right to keep his medical record private and that there are HIPAA laws that protect that. What I want to know is that if we have the right, and I agree, I don't want to understand HIPAA. What I'm asking is that if we have those sort of regulations, for what reason do you believe Trump had the medical professionals and Walter Reed sign NDAs? If you just had to speculate, what sort of, I don't know. I guess, yeah.
What sort of reason?
If you could speculate, if you're just to speculate, I'm not asking you for a definitive, but being someone who's behind the scenes, what type of things would he want to hide outside the HIPAA issue?
Well, with regards to COVID, one of the things that you will be told is the likelihood of for example, like one of the things they'll ask you is what kind of symptoms are you feeling, because the more symptomatic you are, the more likely you are to infect somebody else.
Okay.
Versus if you're not really like that heavy on the symptomatic side, then the less likely you are to infect someone else. It's not necessarily that you won't or you will, it just depends. However, because with COVID, it's in the air, you know, you talk, it's out in the air, you cough, it's in the air, all of that stuff. I guess it makes sense when you think about it that way. One of the things, if anybody goes to any hospital now, all healthcare personnel, the security guards come up to us. What kind of symptoms are you having, if any cough, any this, any that, whatever. And if you obviously, if you say yes, they'll send you to the ER. If you say no, you just carry on and you move. Because it's known that the more symptoms you're feeling, the more likely you are to infect someone. And in the case of President Trump, again, if he's really trying to go to this debate or he wants it public or whatever, then he has to be not a threat to infect someone. Because you know, when you're in a debate, again, you're in proximity with other people. Joe Biden's an older guy too. He's not somebody who's really all that safe in terms of if he catches it. So I would think that if he's trying to hide how symptomatic he is, the very reason is because he does want to go out there. He wants to have these public events, these campaigns, these rallies, this debate. The second one was supposed to be a town hall. Now we're not talking about even just you and the other candidate. Now you're involving other people in the audience. They're going to come up close to the stage and ask you questions. So again, if he was trying to force his way into having that second debate, if that was what he really wanted to do, then how symptomatic you are does absolutely matter. And if he's very symptomatic, then that would be a reason why he would want to hide that.
I love that explanation because he came candid with his COVID diagnosis. However, people in the medical field are going to know how to assess that based on his symptoms. So that actually makes a ton of sense. Okay, so I want to shift gears to another subject. And I wanted to ask about this recent declaration that he came to last week, where he said he is not going to come to an agreement for a second stimulus unless he wins the election. Which, I mean, is essentially blackmail to the American voters. It's basically saying, you'll get help when I get what I want. And if I don't, screw you because I won't be around anymore. I mean, it's a terrible stance. Just curious if we have any thoughts about that.
That's bad. I don't think it's right.
That came off so bad because he tweeted it. Like, he literally tweeted it and basically said, no deal until I win the presidential election. That came off horrible. And I think he must have been informed that it was bad because he then walked it back and said, okay, wait a minute. If Nancy Pelosi does such and such thing, I will sign it right now. So I think even he would never admit it, of course, but I think even he knows that probably was not a good move on his part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was bad too.
Yeah. Sometimes he's too fast with Twitter when he gets on the tweeting. His little Twitter
he works off impulse.
Right.
That's kind of what I think drew a lot of people to him that were not just conservatives. Everybody knows that when Trump came along in 2016, he had a lot of support from independents, from Democrats. There were a lot of Democrats that gave him support. And I think part of the reason of that was because that shoot from the hip kind of mindset that he has. But I think in a moment like this, where, you know, that election kind of feels like it's, you never know which way it's going to go. Like, I think he probably didn't make the best move when it came to the stimulus checks. I think he should have tried harder to negotiate.
Well, we gotta find the Congress like pretty much accountable for all of this because they've taken so long to come up with a deal. So blaming Trump on all this just simply on a tweet is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely blame to go all the ways around because I really think that They could have got this done in September.
It's incredible. I can't believe how Democrats have like pretty much haven't been able to come up with an agreement with Republicans on this deal.
What are you talking about? You're a fascist. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. The Democrats voted twice for stimulus packages. What are you talking about?
And the Republicans have blocked it.
Okay, I want to direct this to Dr. Turkovic. I want to also make the statement in relation to what Ernesto just said. He said that Trump said that no matter what Nancy Pelosi throws on his desk, he'll sign it. And a lot of Americans have interpreted that to mean that now that we're not getting a stimulus check, that it is Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer who are blocking it. But there are other issues, well, I'll just go there, that they feel that it's Pelosi and Schumer blocking it. Do we feel, who are we blaming for the lack of stimulus? I agree with Ernesto, we're blaming Trump. But who's the most powerful man in America right now in politics? It's Mitch McConnell. And he's the one who said that he's going to put it's not going to happen. He hasn't said it in the way that Trump has, but he's pretty much let it be known that he wants a skimpy sandwich. And if that's not it, nobody's getting nothing. Dr. Turkovic, did you have any thoughts on that?
Don't let me start. Okay? Trump is duplicitous on everything. You cannot believe anything that comes out of his mouth because he's a liar, and he'll go back and look out what's good for him when he looks in the mirror. If it helps him in the mirror, that's all that matters. He doesn't give a shit about anybody in America. He don't give a damn about anybody, Ernesto. Not you either. Even though you're white, but you've been depraved and been deprived because you worked your ass off and so you're Hispanic. Esto no significa una mierda de nada. Okay? Una mierda de nada. Okay? Would you like to be on the receiving end of him in Puerto Rico after the hurricane 3 years ago and receive a paper towel package from him? Huh?
Towels, yep.
Yeah, no, that was wrong.
The Democrats have passed stimulus packages in the House, but you can't get it signed unless the Senate agrees, and the Senate won't move on it because it takes its orders from Trump, and McConnell doesn't want to do anything because of an election year, because Republicans don't want to spend a dime, they don't want to spend money, so if the House passes it and the Senate doesn't, it doesn't go to Trump. And then Trump will say, I'll play with it. Well, today I'll sign it, tomorrow I won't sign it, I'm not sure. I hate Pelosi. I don't like Schumer. If I get elected, then I'll sign it. So he plays with the American people. He cannot be trusted. No Republicans can be trusted. Punto y aparte. Cero.
So I feel exactly the same way, Dr. Turkovic, that people don't realize they want to blame Trump. They want to blame Pelosi. The real villain here is Mitch McConnell. He's the one who's going to stop it no matter what. He is the Senate Majority Leader. That's where it's going to end. So, speaking of Republican power in Congress, wait, before I go to that, Lauren, did you have anything you wanted to say about the stimulus?
All right. All right. No, I was just I'm gonna agree and wrap up the topic with what everyone just was talking about. Like you were saying, it's blackmail, and that is blackmail towards the American people. Because how can you say you're gonna do one thing and then totally turn around and do another thing? And so he's on Twitter. He gets those, what do they call, the hot hands or whatever they are? I don't know
Twitter
what the
fingers.
term is. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. He gets the Twitter finger, right? And he starts spewing all these things on Twitter, but then he realizes that what he said is not, it's going to be right for the American people, and it's not going to be taken in the right way. So he has to retract, like what Armando said. So of course he's going to retract, and he's going to go back and think about what he does, but he doesn't think before he does Twitter. His Twitter needs to be taken away from him. And he needs somebody to monitor his Twitter, because obviously nobody's monitoring it, right?
There's nobody monitoring anything because he sent all the adults out of the room. He made all the adults leave, so he's.
And how many Twitter things did he do? 40 messages or something all at once, just spewing off things that he has.
Don't forget also that when he's doing these tweets, if anybody's ever been curious enough to look at them, a lot of them occur at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, or something like that. So so who's gonna be?
Maybe like he's got a few fat rails, and now it's 3, 4 in the morning, and he wants to get thoughts off. You know what I mean? Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, exactly.
Ernesto, before I round out the category, I did want to get to you and see what you thought about the stimulus, because I know that you have very strong feelings about government intervention in people's individual, money and all that sort of thing.
I mean, it just sucks because, sorry, my girlfriend in the background.
I know what's cute is she yelled at you, but you have your headphones in, so you don't even know. You're in trouble later. Go ahead, Ernesto.
I mean, yeah, it just sucks. But like I said, I blame Congress for everything. This should have been released to the American people back, in April? The second stimulus, right?
The first one
received
came around April or May, right? The first
Yeah,
one?
I'm sorry. It should have been
April.
released in it should have been released in May or June then.
Yeah.
And Congress just they've been going back and forth with this whole thing. So it's unfortunate.
They dropped the ball on that because there were even people that didn't get that first stimulus check till like
Oh my God,
August, September. So like that's just been a mess with the whole stimulus thing.
Okay, so to build upon that topic, a lot of Americans I've seen express online in different places that they feel the Democrats have been focusing too much on stopping the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, saving the post office, and other things instead of the stimulus. I read the status of one girl today. I'm not going to mention her name, but she's someone that I met online, and she had a status, and she basically was saying that she almost not wanted to vote because people need their stimulus money and they're not getting it, and that she doesn't care. Not that she doesn't care, but that she cares more about being able to feed her kids than she does about the issue of Amy Coney Barrett, which that everyone in this country has been focusing on. I just want to know how you guys feel about the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett. Should this be something that we should be trying to stop at all costs? Because the theory is that she will overturn Roe v. Wade plus overturn Obamacare.
Yes.
Now, my big question is that all day today they played her declaration that she says she will interpret the law the way it is written. However, we all know that the Supreme Court is the one that determines if a law is going to be a law, if it's going to be stopped or not. And so the Supreme Court could easily overturn Roe v. Wade, and then once it's overturned, she is interpreting the law as the way it's written. So it's a very skirmishy, skirty answer, in my opinion. But I just wanted to know about how you guys all feel about the possible appointment of Amy Coney Barrett. Is it a priority for Democrats or Republicans to make sure that she's appointed or not appointed? And how do we feel about Roe v. Wade individually, and how do we feel that's going to go with the overturnment? And I will let Ernesto, looks like he's thinking. I've gone to Armando a bunch. I'm going to go to Lauren, and then Dr. Turkovic. We'll go from there. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Okay, so since I'm starting out with this, I am very scared personally myself because Roe v. Wade was, a decision the past. Sorry, I'm here. Roe v. Wade was
a landmark decision.
A landmark. Thank you. A landmark decision, and if that gets overturned, that would totally turn our country backwards again, right? Just like with gay marriage. Just like with all these landmark decisions that were made, especially like women's rights is all going to go backwards. So for me personally, in my opinion, I don't think she should be appointed anything. I don't think she has the right views to make America progress, basically.
I think we should wait until after the election.
Yes, and I agree with Ernesto, what you just said.
Because Obama tried to do the same thing when Anthony Scalia died. And Congress didn't allow it, so it's only fair to do the same thing.
And how far away are we from the election? We're less than a month away from the election, and the Republicans can't wait. This is the first thing on their agenda. This is the first most important thing on their agenda.
Exactly. Not only that, but a SCOTUS justice is a life term.
Exactly.
It's a life term. They serve life terms, which is something that I'm highly against.
Exactly.
Amen.
You vote out all the judges. Vote out all the judges. That's what my dad would say.
You know what's funny? You bringing that up. When I vote, when I get my ballot, you don't lie. Y'all don't know who the judges are either. Nope. And when I get them, I'm almost embarrassed to say this because it's an uninformed voter decision. But I vote to vote them all out.
Exactly.
Every single one. Every year I'm like, nope. Vote them out.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the judge is. You just vote them out. Exactly what you're saying.
So,
Right, Dad?
But wait, hold on. You guys
Robert-
remember when Obama tried to do the same thing, right? With
The merit.
Anthony Scalia.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, Cecilia, yeah.
When Scalia died.
Yeah.
Remember? You guys remember, right?
You were
Months
absolutely
before,
correct.
Ernesto,
What-
okay? Not 4 weeks ahead of the time. That was 10 months before, okay? And you got lying son of a bitch, Graham from South Carolina, said, quote me on this. You'll never be able to do this.
Lindsey Graham, yes, absolutely. No, Ernesto is absolutely right with what happened with the end of Obama's term and the issue of appointing a Supreme Court justice. And Joe Biden is absolutely right. It's our choice, and we should be able to choose based on this person's going to be appointed for life. We should get to choose that with, I feel the next president should be able to choose the appointment. But either way, Armando, did you have any thoughts on this issue?
With regards to Roe v. Wade, I'm very pro-choice because I'm of the firm belief that, again, you can't, in my humble opinion, you can't tell a woman to have a child if she doesn't feel she wants to. So I'm very, pro-choice with regards to that. With regards to the whole anointing of our new Supreme Court judge, I think we should wait till after the presidential election. Also, it's only fair because it was made to happen back in 2016. Same thing. So I believe that we, again, should be fair and play that. But I understand that we're this close to the election, and depending on what you believe as far as who's ahead or who's not, maybe the Republicans feel that they need to rally the base a little bit more to get people out there to vote more, and they feel that this will, if they can get it sooner appointed, that'll probably sooner motivate their base.
Oh, of course, because abortion is a hot button issue.
Right.
It's completely a hot button issue.
That's a never-ending hot button issue.
When they always talk Roe versus Wade, it's always with religion always infringes upon that as well. That's why.
No, that's not necessarily true.
Not always, but most of the time it's because of religious reasons why people don't want abortions, especially with something like that.
For example, like I'm pro-choice, but I'm against late-term abortion.
Well, yes.
And I'm not religious. I'm just, to me, that's unethical. Aborting a baby during like the last few months of pregnancy, I think that's wrong.
I'm just gonna throw this out, Ernesto. You don't really believe that's happening, right? Yeah. Let me tell you, Ernesto.
Late-term abortions?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I have had an abortion, and I can promise you that nowhere in the state of Florida will do it after 13 weeks. I don't know about other states, but I feel like this is a trope that is perpetuated by the Republicans, where they say, I know people who believe that you can get an abortion at like 38 weeks, which babies are born typically at 40 weeks. Come on, dude. Like, you don't believe that they're, for no reason, nilly-willy, just because you're, you can't keep your legs closed. And that's being broad. Take it from me. I'm a broad who couldn't keep her legs closed.
But that's besides the point, though. Do you think that, like, it should be legal? That's the question. Like, if it were to happen, do you think it should be legal? Do you think it's ethical, too?
It should be legal.
Late-term abortion?
Late-term abortion, absolutely not, because but here's the thing. Okay, can I ask you, your reason for late-term abortion, let me guess, is that you believe that the baby has a heartbeat, right?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm just going to crush your dream right there, and here's what happened to me. I had an abortion when I was 18, and I was told that the baby didn't have a heartbeat before the first trimester, and I believed all of that. I had an abortion at 12 weeks, which is pretty far along. It's terrible, but either way, my baby had a heartbeat, and they make you, they make you do an ultrasound, they make you see it, and that is impactful on you, because whether I'm an atheist, I don't believe in anything. Right. However, when life has begun, and you're taking that, it is an impactful thing. And I do believe that in a certain context that it is murder. You have ended a life. I mean, I will literally walk around to this day and think like I would have and I'll just put it out there because I'm a skanky whore. I've had 2 abortions, okay? So, I do walk around and think, oh my God, like I could have 2 older children. Like technically my 2 children I have are my 3rd and 4th pregnancies. I was pregnant 2 times before. I've always wanted a daughter. Maybe I killed her ass. You know what I mean? You have to think about these things, But seriously, I'm going to do it. I'm going to shout my abortion so that people can put a real life face and a real life story to abortion. When I became pregnant, I was 18 years old. I was heavily on drugs. I was living house to house. I was not living a productive life. If I would have had that child, it would have been a monster. It would have grown up and stole your fucking stereo, robbed a liquor store. You don't know. Because it is statistically proven that children who are born to mothers who don't want them typically are born into poverty and typically are abused as children. So my personal stance on Roe v. Wade, I'm going to be honest. I'm for abortion. I'm for assisted suicide. I'm for regular suicide. I'm almost for fucking homicide. Whatever gets the fucking highway moving faster. I mean, I'm just legitimately, that is my attitude on it. But,
Just an FYI. I was laughing of how blunt you are, not because of situations that you went through and stuff like that. So wanted to throw that out there.
No problem speaking to who I am, because that's the problem. When people talk about abortions, they don't want to put a face to it. And the funny thing is, I know women who are anti-abortion who've had abortions. When I heard today about the hearing of Amy Coney Barrett, I drove down the street and I thought to myself, God, I'm glad that I was a fucking dumb bitch before these laws are possibly going to be overturned, because I had that option. I hope that other women have that option.
I wonder what Armando has to say about this, since he's in the medical field.
We're going to turn to Armando. I've gone too deep. You know what I mean? Grab a tissue. Go ahead, Armando. What's up?
With regards to abortion, that's what we're talking about?
The possible overturn of Roe v. Wade, and you said you're pro-choice, but
late-term abortion.
Late-term abortion, correct.
I'm against late-term abortion, me personally, because I think that you're talking about late-term, that's already like, I guess there's options. You can put the baby up for adoption, something like that. But again, like that's late-term abortion is different than abortion at a certain time when you can do it. Overturning Roe v. Wade, in my opinion, definitely sets the country back a lot. I think that would be a huge step backwards. I really do.
Now, to just wrap it up, do we believe that if Amy Coney Barrett is appointed to the Senate, that she will? Do you believe that the possible overturning of Roe v. Wade is possible? And do we believe that if she gets into the court and we have a Republican majority, a lot of things are going to change? Do we believe that, or do we not? Do we? Is this a threat?
I think it's possible. Yes. I think the effort will be made for sure. It'll be a fight, and I think it's at risk if this goes through.
I heard talks about Democrats like overpacking the Supreme Court. Have you guys heard about that?
I've heard about that.
More about Republicans doing
it. What exactly is that?
Where they put more judges, right? Is that what
they put more judges, right?
In 1937, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the Democrats who ran Congress tried to appoint more justices to the Supreme Court, because the justices that were there were archaic and backward, putting a law into effect that they would be 70 years of age, that they have to retire, they couldn't serve too many years, and they wanted to increase it so the majority would be more favorable to New Deal legislation. It was rejected, not just by Republicans, but also by Democrats in Congress. I'm totally in favor of it, because the Republicans play by no rules. So if there's a Democratic president and a Senate that's Democratic, and a House of Representatives in November that's Democratic, you use your mandate as quickly as you can, just like Johnson did in '64, to go ahead and get the Great Society passed with Medicare, Medicaid, and everything else. You go ahead and put those judges on the court and let the Republicans get the majority to take them off the court, because they would have done the same thing. And I have no reprehension about that for the Republicans, because I can barely be in a room with one of them.
Okay, but and you know what's funny? You brought up Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society in 1964. The thing about that, a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, he instituted welfare and social safety net programs." He didn't do that because he was sad about the inner city and Black and brown people. He did it because he went to Appalachia and saw the extreme poverty that they had up there. You know, the Dolly Partons and the Loretta Lynn's and whoever, the extreme poverty that these people lived in Appalachia. I just want to point that out because I love Lyndon, I do, but a lot of people want to give him credit for the Great Society as if he cared to uplift Black and brown people, and it was never about us. And it
was under Johnson, and it was under the Democrats that the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Acts were passed, and there was a march on Washington.
Absolutely.
All under Johnson and Kennedy. That would have never happened under a Republican administration. Never.
Absolutely, I agree 100. Okay, so just to round this show out, I do want to ask, the other big hot button topic this weekend is Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus, what do we think about Chris? Okay, so
About the what?
I'm gonna let the panelists talk about their opinion, and then I'll talk about mine. Dr. Turkovic, what are your thoughts on what's going on with the Christopher Columbus conspiracy?
Christopher Columbus was in a world that was ruled by white men. Okay, he represented the white king and white queen of Spain, Isabella and Fernando, no? To go find a route to Asia by going westward. He did not know the people that he found, but they called them Indios in Portuguese and Spanish. Indians, which is
they were Chinese, right? Or Caribbean.
A derogatory term in English, and I refer to them in my class as Native Americans, tribal people, indigenous people, First Nation people, tribes, whatever they want to call them, but not Indians, not to use that term. Is it a holiday that the Italian Americans in New York, which are so proud of it, would never touch, okay, or in Boston or the Northeast? That's true. So there needs to be some compromise. They need to go ahead and put this just like they should have taken the Confederate statues, and instead of taking them and knocking them all down, that's fine, but they could have put them in museums or historical societies or someplace else. There needs to be a compromise. But what we should recognize is indigenous people's rights in this country.
No,
For thousands of years.
Okay, hold on. Before anybody else takes over, I do want to address something you said. And it is very accurate. You know this as a history professor, but one of the things I was taught, my degree is in history, is that when you look at history, you cannot look at it through your 2020 eyes.
That's correct.
You may look upon the Romans and you may say, oh my God, they're so savage because they threw people. That was not savage to them. That was normal to them. That was just like us, putting someone on probation. That was normal standard practice for them. Yeah. So I 100% agree that we do need to take into account the context of the times in which Columbus lived before we vilify him. And we do need to think about the indigenous peoples. However, I am going to share my opinion before I let other panelists go through. I honestly was fully in support of the indigenous side of this movement until when the Dakota Access Pipeline came up. I started frequenting a lot of Native American spaces online, and I saw that they are actually very racist against Black people. They could give two fucks about Black Lives Matter. They could give two shits about what goes on with, no, I'm just being honest. They could give two shits about what goes on with me. So you know what? Honestly, for me personally as an individual, fuck the pipeline and fuck your Columbus Day issues. But now to other people, or I'm going to go ahead and let Ernesto take it because I feel like he's about to die, guys.
Honestly, I'm indifferent about this. I don't care. I mean, I'm indigenous. Like I said earlier, I've heard bad things about Christopher Columbus, that like you said, it was normal during the times, how he assassinated and raped a whole bunch of indigenous people. But then again, you could say the same thing about Blacks during slavery then, right?
Correct, absolutely. And I will admit that
no,
but can I
does that fit your narrative?
No, it does, but I'm going to break it down. So you say that when we look upon slavery, as I'm saying with relation to the Romans in the arena or anything else, is that we shouldn't look upon it with such extreme 2020 eyes that it was such brutality. Okay, here's the thing. Yes, slavery was a common standard practice in the plantation South. However, no, well, in the world, but we're talking about as Americans, the plantation South. The thing was quality of life. There were many slave owners, and I'm not praising slave owners. I'm not saying slave owners are good people. What I'm saying is that there were many slave owners who were somewhat compassionate. Yes, they recognized I own you and you're my property, but realistically, but they tried to give them a standard of life that was not horrible. And then you had people like Madame LaLaurie in New Orleans who tortured her slaves and raped them and kept them in horrible conditions. So when we look at slavery and we look at the humanity, okay, the slaves in Brazil, they were worked to death. Like, they were taken to Brazil, they worked to fucking death. The ones who were sent to the Caribbean, Puerto Rico, Cuba, where Armando was, his ancestors, they were taught to train slaves. That's what slaves came over, they trained them to go to the New World. They seasoned them, what it's called. They were slave seasoning colonies. And they trained them, to be ready for the New World.
So you're saying morality has a lot to do with time?
What I'm saying is that savageness, yes. When we look at the practices of systemic savagery, for example, throwing people into the arena as punishment, crucifixions and things like that. Okay, that was just standard practice. But in the case of Madame LaLaurie, you didn't need to lock someone up and flay them and wait for them to die and all of that. So I do agree, and I get the point you're driving at, that we do, if I'm saying that's the case for the Romans, they weren't such bad guys, okay, fine. I get what you're saying. But, and yes, I will agree with that, but I feel like I've rambled and gone on a tangent. So let's over to, did you have any follow-up?
No, like I said, I'm just indifferent about the whole Christopher Columbus thing. I don't care.
For you, it's just, fuck it, I'm going to go to Starbucks. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's so funny.
Armando, did you have thoughts on the Christopher Columbus controversy that we have going on?
I mean, being from Puerto Rico, obviously, I'm well aware that Christopher Columbus came and obviously enslaved the native people that were there, along with the African slaves, raped all the women, made those people suffer, tortured them, all that. So with regards to himself, I don't really have much, I guess, good feelings about, that. But I have my reasons. And that's pretty much my thoughts on it.
No, absolutely. I mean, for you're from Puerto Rico, so, I don't know your lineage, but obviously it comprises of likely Spaniard, Taino, Carib. That's going to be your blood, so.
Yeah, same here.
The first place he landed was your people to kill them. So I get why for you that could, and to kill them with bows and arrows, no, to kill them with their dirtiness, because Europeans were dirty and swimming in all kinds of bullshit, not to mention them victimizing you guys based on lies of being cannibals and whatnot.
Yeah, but thanks to him, though, he brought Western civilization to the Americas, and that's been a tremendous thing for the New World, for the Americas. I think Western civilization is by far the most advanced type of society in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I ain't gonna lie. I'm a descendant of a slave. I ain't trying to be with them over there in Africa, cause I'm real happy to be here. Chris.
Exactly. Can you imagine if the Arabs would have conquered the Americas? How backwards our society would be? So. I mean,
very true, and that is another topic for another day, and we are going to come on it. Now, did anyone else have anything to say about Christopher Columbus? I know, Lauren, I don't feel like we addressed you on this topic.
Well, with regards to Columbus, of course, there's going to be people throughout history that, we don't agree with. But like you said, over time, things change over time, right? From the beginning of humanity and until, nowadays, we're not going to look at a person with the same goggles or whatever you're going to say as you would look at them today, or you would look at them in the past. Things happen for a reason, right? Christopher Columbus wasn't the only bad guy, if you want to call him a bad guy. There's plenty of other guys that were much worse than him, So if we're going to look if we're going to look throughout history, every civilization, all of humanity is going to have bad people and going to have people that we don't agree with their policies, we don't agree with their actions, right? So he's just tagged as one of the people that we don't agree with. But, you know, what are you going to do?
No, I agree.
About it.
He's not on the same level as Hitler, though, right? I mean, he's not that bad.
No.
Of course not.
Oh, and by the way, since you're bringing up Hitler, I just want to bring up a very interesting point. I don't know if anybody saw this, but Mark Zuckerberg is going to start taking down the posts of Holocaust deniers, and he's going to start blocking them on Facebook. So if you go on Facebook and you want to start Holocaust denying, you're going to get silenced immediately. And I'm very, as much as I am against regulation,
good.
I love that.
Yeah, I can't believe there's people that actually deny this, like deny history when there's evidence for it.
That's a whole nother subject.
A whole nother subject.
Yes.
we could have 2 podcasts for that one.
No, he brought up a really good point. The ignorance of America, the dumbing down. I mean, listen, guys. We are so excited to get on like topic issues, and we want to, but with the upcoming presidential election, we are going to be focusing on that the next 4 weeks. But after that, we will be, delving into individual subjects: abortion, racism, slavery, Black Lives Movement, Antifa. We're going to be moving into subject podcasts that will be edited. But for right now, we are doing the roundup, and it is impromptu. I just wanted to say thank you so much to my panelists, Ernesto. And you know what? I'm embarrassed, Ernesto, truthfully, that I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. And that's embarrassing as someone who grew up in South Florida. But I'm thinking it's Ernesto Largaespada Matute, right?
Yeah, Ernesto Largaespada Matute.
See, I did it. Okay, fucking beautiful. Thank you, Cuban distant family members. Okay, and then it's Armando Ramirez. Obviously, I can say that.
La parte Matute se suena así de indígena, che. ¿Sabes?
By the way, Ernesto, do you guys know that Dr. Turkovic has a degree? What is it? It's in Portuguese and Spanish language?
American history.
Bethany.
Yeah.
Bethany, you exasperate me sometimes. Bachelor's in History from Queens College, City University of New York. My master's is from FAU in Boca Raton. My doctorate and my certificate of Latin American Studies is from the University of Florida in Gainesville. Okay.
Okay. In my defense, before you call me a Nini head, when
you
I
are
met
a Nini
you,
head.
When I met you at 14 years old, you were working for Motorola, and you were the head of the Latin American Communications Department. You were going to Brazil and all of South America all the time.
I was 10 years at Motorola. I was Senior Director of Communications and Public Affairs for Motorola Latin America, from Mexico to Tierra del Fuego, inclusive al Caribe. Okay.
The end of the world. That's right. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, panelists. Dr. Turkovic, I've known you for years, since I was 14 years old.
Let's have a pause. And my cause is to reform el huérfano ahí que está sentado en Arizona.
I just want to say thank you so much, Ernesto, Armando, Lauren. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And as always, burrito fans, we will be back next week with a new roundup and a new fuse. So thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to end this out. Bye, everyone. Did anyone want to say bye?
Have a good one.
Have a good one. Nice talking to you guys.
Yes.
Oh.